What's up? What's going on, guys? I hope you are doing well. Welcome to the Risen Fallen podcast. I am your host, Mark Hendrickson, and today I actually had an episode that I filmed by myself lined up for you guys for today, but I wanted to push ahead this interview because I just recorded this interview with Marcus Torgerson, and I wanted to let you guys hear it. So without further ado, we're going to jump into this. Marcus is a cool guy that I linked up with via Instagram. He's got decades of self-defense experience teaching and doing self-defense and martial arts. We got to talk a lot about some past traumas of his that, I don't want to share that story. I'll let him talk about it. But overcoming those things and how to reframe those perspectives in your mind. And so without further ado, let's just jump straight into this interview. I hope you guys enjoy listening to this conversation as much as I enjoyed having it. So without further ado, let's jump into the show. Thank you for joining us. Much love and enjoy the conversation. Let's go. Well, Marcus, thanks for coming on. I appreciate your time. Thanks for giving us your time today. Good morning for me. Good afternoon for you. What's going on?
Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
Awesome, man. How's your morning been? How's your day been so far?
Well, I woke up breathing, so that's always the first bonus. And it's been good. I had good breakfast with a friend, did some fellowshipping, and it's gorgeous here. I don't know where are you? Are you in Vancouver?
Yeah, I'm in Vancouver. It's a beautiful sunny day here.
Beautiful, beautiful. What part of Vancouver?
I live in a suburb just south of it. It's called Richmond.
I grew up in Vancouver, so.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I live in Richmond.
Okay. All right. Excellent.
Yeah. My dad grew up in East Van, actually. I mean, a lot of work out there for me as well.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, I do home renovations and restoration. I'm a carpenter by trade, so I'm out there all the time.
Nice. Not bad, brother. Not bad at all.
Yeah. So for anybody that's kind of listening to this or doesn't really, they're not familiar with you, kind of tell people like who you are and what you're all about, and then we'll because I want to just pick your brain about a couple different random things.
Cool. For those that don't know, my name is Marcus Torgerson. For most of my life, all of my life, up until last little bit, I've been in the martial arts, combative, defensive tactics arena realm, teaching Krav Maga, an Israeli self-defense system, for the last 18 years. And as of late, I've recently retired from international travel. My job was for 10 years to travel around the world, certifying men and women to become instructors, civilian, whether they're teaching civilians or kids or women, military, law enforcement. So I've been blessed to be able to go all around the world doing that. And then I retired from that 2020. So whenever COVID hit 2020, I took that as a great opportunity to revamp some things. And now I'm I need to think before I talk. I am walking down a path of looking for my purpose. And while I'm looking for that purpose, I am speaking to men's groups, doing some kind of like an idiot's guide to self-defense. So I want to be the gateway drug for people. I teach you some cool moves. Now go and find whether it's jiu-jitsu or Muay Thai or Krav Maga or whatever, go find whatever it is. I just want to push you to show you how easy it is, and still trying to find my own purpose. And there you go. I think that's 54 years all in one.
That's beautiful, man. I feel like that journey of looking for a purpose, looking for a reason for being here is I think that's pretty translatable to everybody's life. I think everybody feels like that at some point of like, why am I here? Like if I was put here for a purpose, what is it?
Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
how old were you when you started getting those types of thoughts?
That is a really good question. Really good question. I would say, I would say I've had that feeling for most of my life because I resisted teaching from, it was in the 90s when I first started getting introduced to I should be teaching. I was being, I shouldn't say pushed, but I was being led to be a teacher, be a teacher. My first job, my first business was a personal trainer. And I fell into that because I was in competitive bodybuilding and people were like, look, I'll give you money to teach me how to work out and all that. So my I was born to be an educator and I resisted that for so long. So my purpose has been laid out. It's the human part of me that says, no, 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 that can't be me. I can't do that. Pride, fear, insecurity, doubt, all these things going through. So when I meet other people who are like, well, I'm lost and without a purpose, my first question is always, what's the thing what's the one constant that's been going on all your life? Like everybody has one constant, right? Like I'm not sure if renovation is your purpose, but there's probably something aligned with that that quantum leaps you into a realm of whatever it is that you're going to do. And it's us that are usually fear-based that keeps us from doing that thing, regardless of what the motivation is in your brain. It's usually fear that stops us from that purpose.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I feel like a lot of people as well had to struggle with thinking about the way that I chose my career path, kind of having a family business and wanting to pursue that, what that means to me. And there was a lot of times where I think there was a lot of times where I struggled with relating the stuff that I do on a daily basis to what I see as like my purpose in this world. And I know that it can be very frustrating when you just feel that disconnect. When you
Mm-hmm.
feel that disconnect of like, okay, I'm not super passionate about digging ditches around people's houses. I'm not super passionate. Like it's not, I don't think it's my purpose to remodel homes or to upgrade water lines and or electrical panels or anything like that. Like that's not the part that I'm passionate about or is my purpose. Where it aligns is like I'm willing to do work that makes other people's lives better. That improves their life. That makes them feel like when they walk in their house that they're coming home.
Yeah.
Like and so like I think that when you understand a purpose, like your purpose, it gives the monotonous tasks that you have to do on a daily basis much more meaning, and it makes the quote unquote suffering much more bearable.
And you know, it's fun. I'm so happy you put it that way because how we frame something is generally where our mindset or our mentality is. You know, digging ditches, doing that, and it's looked upon when you put it in that context. You're like, well, that is a miserable way of living. But when you sit there and bring joy to that that action that says, well, I'm doing this ditching, man, when this is done, this person is going to be so relieved and feel so good about it. Every single thing we do as humans, we get a choice. Do I choose to be a miserable SOB about this, or do I choose to look at how happy this is going to make me and or others? And serving others and that selfless behavior is not the common because it's me, I'm going to do this. So when I can be around somebody like talking to you and you get the serving your fellow human being, do more for others than you do for yourself. It is a breath of fresh air for me.
Yeah, yeah. So when did you head down to Texas? What brought you to Texas down south?
Well, I was living in Israel, and a my second wife, uh, my second wife, we had been friends forever, and she was like, why maybe we should just give this a shot. And so I flew from Israel. I came to Texas, and we just saw that, yes, we should give this a shot. So I got married, and that didn't work out. But I came here, I don't know, 2015, I think 2015. And it was, I have no regrets. And she's a beautiful woman, fantastic. When people ask, what was it like? Well, in the beginning, we were like brother, sister. People said, you're either brother, sister, or you should be married. Well, we got married and found that maybe we were more like tight friends, brother, sister. We weren't meant to be long-term married. However, that being said, and I want to say this to all the people who are married, a lot of times wedges get in between, the gap between man and woman. Life throws gaps, and you make a choice whether you close the gap together or whether you allow that gap to get bigger and bigger and bigger. And when it comes to my second wife, I know that my part of it was I allowed that gap to get bigger. So I own the fact that our marriage dissolving, I have to own my part of it. There's no such thing as one person is 100% responsible for the demise of a relationship or friendship. Everybody's got to own their part. But it's the best thing. I mean, being in Texas is, I love Vancouver. I love Canada. Okay, I do. With that said, when you experience a place where you immediately take a breath and just feel 1,000,000 pounds lighter, and your heart gets warm and fuzzies from it, and it's been that way since I've been here. I've loved Texas from the first time I set foot in it, and so it's good stuff.
That's awesome, man. And so how long were you living in Israel?
Well, I've been in Israel on and off for 18 years, but I lived there for a little over a year. And it's funny, the choice was going to be, before I married my second wife, that I was either going to shack up with an Israeli chick and just convert and live there forever. And then God put this woman in front of me, and I don't have any regrets. I mean, I love Israel. Israel's always going to have a sense of home for me. I've got a lot of Israel tattooed over my body, and it's a beautiful country, and I recommend everybody go. It is a phenomenal, one of the best places on earth. But I'm glad that I moved to Texas.
That's awesome, man. Yeah. I guess you were there for the entire last few years where we were kind of set with a bunch of restrictions. It was you got to escape Canada for that.
Yeah. I was very fortunate that during that time, at that time I was living in Arizona. And Arizona was not Canada. Israel was very much like Canada at the time. So I haven't been there now in 3 years. But yeah, I promised myself that once I found out that you were from Canada, I promised myself that I would be cautious with what I said, in the sense of, Canada is in my blood. I can come to Canada anytime. I'm a natural citizen of Canada. Nobody can not let me in. But my heart is cracked with what's happened to this beautiful country of ours in Canada over the last few years. And I just pray that it's going to shift. Nobody that's ever been raised in Canada would ever recognize the way it is currently.
Yeah.
Hurts my heart.
Yeah. It definitely feels, I didn't know. The thing is, it's weird because I grew up, like, I was born in the mid-90s. And so as I grew up, like, I kind of look back at my childhood and think, was it just like separation from society as I was like just a kid back in the day, or was it way better in the mid 90s, early 2000s when I was a kid? Like I always think like, was I just unaware, or were things better, or
No, no, I think it's fair to say. I mean, it's always, especially like, okay, so I was obviously born way before you, and it's, you always listen to old people and they're always squawking about it's way better in my time. We are just at a different time of life on this planet, and anytime a pendulum swings one direction or the other to the extreme of whatever it is, there's reactions as a result of that. And Canada to date has never been as severe as it is now. But if you look at the history of Canada, there's been political climates always rock back and forth, and things that were happening now. And this is also being in America. It's the same thing. Things that are happening now that we're like, I can't believe, was this always happening? Yes, it was always happening. We were just not aware of it. There's nothing new under the sun. The courage of negativity, I'm just going to put it that way, the courage of negativity is just, there's no reprimand. So it's easy to say and do and be ways that without repercussions. In the past, there was repercussions for actions. Now, not so much. So here we are. And it'll change. And the world will still keep revolving. The sun will come up, the sun will go down, the moon will come up, like stars are in the skies. It's never going to change until something very, very big happens. And by then, you and I will be dead and buried, so it won't really matter.
Yeah, I kind of feel the exact same way. I think even in the last few years of just kind of diving into human history and even like finding God and reading the Bible, like there's so many times in the Bible or in human history that we've seen in like the last 100 years of just like corruption in governments and the people pulling the strings and the lower and middle class suffering the most. Like it's been like that since human creation. And so
Yes.
like the question I always try and ask myself is like, how can you stay of like a stable mind? That's really the question. Because if this is like the reality for all humans, we have to figure that out.
Yes. And I'm glad that you brought that up, because that was a conversation I had with my friend at 8 o'clock this morning. Oh, I'm trying my best to make sure that Lord, just give me the right verbiage. Because human beings have consistently behaved in a manner for 2,000 plus years, or however long it is, at the end of the day, you as an individual and I as an individual make a conscious choice. And our choice is to love our neighbor as we love ourselves. Now, I have to love myself. I have to be a good human being. I have to sit there and watch out for my fellow human being. I need to be good regardless of the evil and ugliness that's in the world. And my brightness, my light, is to shine, especially on those people who are in the dark. And there's a lot of people that are just, their hands are in the air. They're like, I can't go forward anymore, because unfortunately they've caught up themselves in the world of social media, news, what have you, and they watch it. And of course you're going to sit there and feel like a tidal wave's coming over you. However, if you or me or others can sit there and just say, look, first of all, breathe, take a breath. You have a choice. Do not let the world ruin the beautiful light that's inside of you. And that's not, that doesn't come from me talking to other people. That's an example thing. Marcus, you're always so upbeat. Hold on. No, I'm not. I have darkness and I have dark days, and I've had my share of living in the abyss. However, I know that living with a small bit of hope and a small bit of faith makes my days better. And maybe by my actions and how I speak, I can show someone else that there's hope in my actions and maybe in my verbiage,
Absolutely. when did you kind of start to see the world that way?
Well, so I found my faith late 2021, and I'd already been kind of walking down a path. You know, this is what my standard answer is. I worked for the enemy I worked for the evil for decades. And so when you know what's on the other side of the coin, it's not really hard when you give your life to God to say, okay, I know if worst case scenario, I'll just do the opposite of what I've done in the past. Right? So it's not hard for me to walk this path of faith because I know what the other side is like. Now, the problem is when you're with people who don't want to see that there's a better option, fair enough, good. You know, it's not my job you're a free moral agent, man. You can do whatever you want. Mm-hmm. I'm just here to sit there and say, I've seen both sides and I've made a conscious choice that I like this side better. So it's up to you. Just don't believe the lie of the darkness side has cookies. Well, we got cookies on our side too, and they taste better. Okay. But after 2021, it really, and to this day, you know, if I talk to anybody from Vancouver who's known me there's not very many people who've known me as long, they're all dead, but you know, there's still some people who've known me since the 90s, and they would never recognize me. Because they don't, if I haven't interacted with them, they haven't seen this version of me. They only know that version of Marcus. Mm-hmm. And it freaks people out, right? Because I'm not that guy anymore. So I don't think I answered your question, but buddy, I don't want to waste 4 hours trying to circle back to getting
No. I like that. I like that. It's so you're saying like, because I think I don't even remember the original question. I think it was just how long have you started seeing the world that way, which is, I guess, probably the smartest question you could ever ask somebody. How long have you seen the world this way?
Yeah. And it's a good question. And, you know, the funny part about when you've seen both sides of the earth, what is more amazing is, and this is what I will say, and hopefully I won't lose the people listening. You know, my faith isn't about me getting baptized or when I acknowledge God. My faith is when I look back at my entire life and seeing clearly how often, how much God was with me, especially during the times that I denounced him or that I didn't acknowledge him or anything, and he was still there. And that is beyond. Like, there's no argument there. You can have anybody you want come up and bitch and complain about, well, Marcus, now that you found God, you walk this way. I look back and I see how much he was with me the entire time. And that's where my faith comes from. Not from looking at the world now, but the fact that he was with me during that whole time. And that's where my true faith comes from. Because that's a cool thing, man. When somebody will rock and roll with you, even when you call them all the names in the book and they still don't, they're like, you know what, whatever, I'm still with you. That's a friendship. That's a relationship. And that's what keeps me going, especially during the dark days that I have.
How often do you reflect on the past in order to help you get through the stuff that you're going through now?
Not often. Usually it's something will happen and there will be a correlation to say an event will happen. Somebody else speaking to somebody and they'll say, you know what, man, I cussed out God. He must hate me. And then I'll be like, hold on a second. Listen, I want you to know that there was a time, and then I'll tell this time of when I cussed out God and I threw him down. It was 1997. My son had been born. He has cerebral palsy. And I blamed God. I said, God, you gave my son cerebral palsy to punish me for everything bad I did my entire life. Now I know that that's not true. My son is a blessing. My son makes this world a brighter place as a result, that only in a way that only he can. However, I viewed things a certain way, and guilt and shame and condemnation and all the bullshit that comes with that, forgive my language. So when my past has been something that I'm not anchored to, But when somebody brings something up, I'm able to use that moment. God says, hey, remember that time? Let's sit there and let's get this person straight and narrowed and let them understand it, blah, 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 blah. So all the things in my past, everything, all the bad stuff, and I've got a plethora of bad stuff, has been used. And I say this, God turned my mess into a message. Everything that from a man's horror stories, my entire youth is a horror story. However, I'm able to sit there and now show that, I have a choice. When you have trauma, and I'm sure you've had trauma in your lifetime, everybody's had trauma. Trauma, we're a victim. After a victim, you survive. After you survive, you thrive. After you thrive, you flourish. These are my words, not anybody else's. Or maybe if there is, I didn't copy them from anybody else. So if somebody wants to sit there and give me shit, just remember, I didn't know somebody else said it. To get to the flourishing part, you need to sit there and thrive in your trauma. Most people, to overcome their trauma, they get to a point of surviving, where I'm a survival. I'm not a victim anymore, but I'm surviving it. Well, that's great, but you need to thrive in it. You need to sit there and see that there was a blessing in that trauma. To truly flourish in is to look back and be not thankful that it happened, but be like, wow, I'm thankful that for me, that God gave me the strength and was in me and around me to get me to the point where I can look back and be a serving and a helpful person to somebody else who's going through trauma at this point in time, whatever stage they're at.
Yeah. What would you say to the people that would think or to ask like, oh, but how can you say that my trauma is a blessing?
Yeah. Well, and this is where the viewpoint, a lot of people sit there and say, if God's alive, why would he let this happen to me or that happen to me, or why all that stuff? So there's two sides to a coin. There's a good people and there's bad people, right? There's an enemy. There's evil on this planet. You cannot deny there's evil on this planet. And that evil's purpose is to steal, kill, and destroy our life. So when trauma happens, it's stolen or killed or destroyed a chunk of our life. Now, we have a choice. Do we allow that event to break us or build us? And we all have everybody's the exact same inside. So when somebody comes to me and they're like, how can you say that? I'll make it personal about myself. That way nobody gets offended. I was molested twice by two different men. How can you dare tell me that was a blessing? Okay. When you speak to someone who's crushed by their being molested, and you come by to them and you say, brother, sister, I know what that's like. And look, I'm still alive. You feel like the world is over. You feel like you're of no use. You feel useless. I'm trying to tell you that, you know what? We will get through this, and we will get to a point where we can help other people with that trauma. And the only way to really, truly heal from trauma is to help others in their trauma. I'm gonna circle back to this. Just bear with me. They say hurt people, right? A hurt person hurts another person. And I've evolved that a little bit to hurt people help heal hurt people. And when it depends also how raw is the injury, right? How raw is somebody who's got a gaping wound, and you're like, well, I'm just going to love you and you're going to love me back. Like, they're going to be like, F you. And, you got to heal that open wound. First aid, you got to clean it. You got to make sure bandage it, make sure it's okay. It's going to scab, and then new skin's got to come over it. So a lot of times when people are saying, how can you say it's a blessing? I've got to be very, very respectful of where are they in their healing, and not try to flush it with a whole bunch of rubbing alcohol when it's, barely healed or whatever. I'm trying my best to be all deep and shit, and it's failing miserably.
No, I get you
But
exactly.
you know what I mean? Like the people who are healing, my job is to listen. If there's sometimes you listen, sometimes you talk. God gave me 2 ears and one mouth. So I should listen more than I talk when somebody's angry or upset. And then just plant seeds of healing. So it might be I plant a seed and nothing happens, and you come by and you water those seeds, and then you just leave, and then somebody else waters, and before you know it, that person's healed through a variety of different circumstances and places and things.
That's huge, man.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, that's huge. I think of it as you were saying that, I was visualizing like a broken foot. Like you're not starting to start walking on the day that you break your foot. Like your physio happens after the bones heal. I get that a lot, man. I like that analogy you said. And I also like at the end how you said, maybe I don't heal, like for example, like maybe like I'm not the one to help fix this person, but
That's
like
right.
if I can just plant a seed and then maybe they talk to somebody down the road, they water it. I think that that's a good way to look at it because looking back in the past, there's been times where I've seen like some of my friends or people that I love that walk down the wrong path, and then I'm like, man, I wish I could have done more. I wish I could have done more. I wish I could have saved this person. And I think that we like put a lot of guilt on ourselves for that when it's like, man, I planted my seeds. They just weren't in fertile ground, or they weren't being watered. They're like,
Yeah. And you've got to remember too, let's go in with pain, and let's just take somebody who's on the wrong path and they end up trying to kill themselves, or they kill themselves, which has happened many a times. You can sit there and plant the seed, but the enemy's got a part in this as well. And when they're whispering in somebody's ear and you're planting seeds of hope and light, there's other people whispering in their ear as well. And sometimes those whispers are stronger than anything you can plant. And when they're gone, or they go down that destructive avenue or addiction or whatever, remember, we're only human and we can only do so much. Our job is not to fix and do all, like, man, our job is to be whatever we can be for that person at that specific moment. No more, no less.
yeah, I love that, man. I think, have you read the book Outwitting the Devil?
Oh,
Napoleon Hill?
I know. He's got a sense of humor. I've read most of it. It was a tough read for me.
Mm-hmm.
It was a very tough, like it was hard for me to wrap my head around the fact of when this was written and how he wrote it.
Yeah.
And as I was going through stuff, I just had that copy of that book that you're bringing up that I haven't thought about in 2 years in my hands, and I was going over and all the signs, the things I underlined, underwrote, whatever, underlined. It's just so weird that not weird. God's got a sense of humor. Yes, I'm familiar with the book.
I just finished it actually. I had someone on the podcast maybe a month ago who recommended it to me, and I bought it before we even ended the Zoom call. I was like, I'm getting this book. I just finished it in like last week, but the way that you were speaking just reminded me of that book where he says that talking about the way that the devil works on human beings through like the habit of drifting and just the way that the temptations happen, the way that you were discussing like the whispers in the ear. It's like sometimes those aren't people, man. Sometimes that's just ourselves.
Yeah, and also, and this is something that a lot of people need to get their head wrapped around. The enemy will speak through other people, and those people are not strangers. Those people are people that you love. It's amazing how many times the enemy is used. I've been used to say shit that is not cool through other people. Listen, we're free moral agents, and stuff happens. Thoughts come through our head. We speak. That's why I'm very, very aware of what I speak. When I say aware, I'm not Jordan Peterson aware. Like that man is, he's very well thought before he opens his mouth. I'm not that way. but I'm cognizant of, if I say something and I know that shit was not from the Lord above, I need to take that back and be like, hey, yeah, nope, 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 nope. And there'll be times that I'll be talking. It hasn't happened today, but there'll be times I'm talking to somebody on a podcast and I'll be like, whoa, 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 hold on. Not today, not today. Get out. I get out, because it's constantly happening. The only authority the enemy has is here. He's got no power anywhere else. He doesn't actually even have power over us. However, we're conditioned to and I'm trying not to, like, again, I haven't looked deep into your past podcast, so I don't want your viewers to be like, okay, if I wanted a sermon, I'd go to church. You know what I'm saying? However, I have to say one thing that I learned from a guy named Jim Caviezel. That's the guy who played Jesus in Last Temptation Cross. I watched him on a podcast with Sean Ryan before it was taken off. I just want to throw that in there. Censorship is not just in Canada.
Yeah, no, I've listened to that podcast. I love that episode.
Okay, so I didn't grow up with the faith or the church or anything. As a matter of fact, it was the opposite. And in the past, for those of you viewing it on YouTube, you'll see that my hands are together. For those of you that are listening, you're going to be like, what is he doing with his hands? So as you can see, I have my hands equal in distance, right? And so on my left hand is God, and in my right hand is the devil. And then in between that is supposed to be us. That's what I was created to, I was told. Well, the truth is, and my left hand is way, way, way high in the screen. That's God. And low, low, low is the devil. And I'm over here above the devil. And that, when I heard Jim Caviezel say that, that was a game changer for me. I was like, well, yeah. You know, I have it written on my wall. Therefore, submit to God, resist the devil, and he shall flee from you. Like, he's got nothing. And that'll be, I'm not going to say that's the last I'm going to talk about the subject, because we'll move on. But when I'm around people who are going through dark times, I remember that there's people whispering in their ears. And my job is to do the best I can to change the balance of where their listening is in relation to what is actually light and what is dark. And sometimes sprinkling just a little bit of light is enough to drown out the darkness that's whispering in their ears.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, enough about that. I'm off my soapbox.
No, I love that, man. I love that. And yeah, I don't think you have to worry about like how anyone will like interpret this or anything like that. I think you're on point, man. I think you're 100% on point. I think it's so you know, it's so, they say like it's so difficult to, it's more easy to lie to a man than to convince him he's been lied to, right? And when I think about what we're talking about, I think about that, because I think that when someone is going down a dark path and you're trying to give them hope, it's like there's almost like a resistance to the good feeling of like, there's that, like, it's harder to convince them that they've been lied to. And you're like, no, dude, trust me, it's like life gets better. You have to keep pushing through this. Like, I say the exact same thing as you. I feel like it's a similar message, just in different words, of just like the way that you can overcome your trauma is to show other people that it's like that it's possible to overcome it. Like, that's where the virtue is. Yeah.
And remember that a lot of people in the dark don't feel worthy, right? Like, the guilt and shame of people is what holds them in their darkness. And this is why I've said this, and I will say this until my last breath. Think about the moment. There's always one moment that you are most ashamed of. Something you've done that's what whispers in your ear. Oh yeah, you think you're all that. Remember this when you did this? And so just hold on to that moment. And show yourself at that time grace, because you didn't know then what you know now. You are not the person now that you were then. Show that version of you grace. And by showing that version of you grace, it gives you permission to heal from what you did or what was done to you. Either way, whatever that moment is, to start healing, you need to show yourself grace from that specific time. For example, I'm 10 years old and a man, my next door neighbor, molests me. I can hate myself for all of those things that happened. However, I have an option of going back and going to 10-year-old Marcus and saying, buddy, you didn't know what you know now. It's easy to hate yourself for things happening back then. You're not that, you weren't, it's not you. Relax. Or if you did something bad, say, look, are you the same person now that you were back then? If the answer is yes, then yeah, you should probably do some work. But more than likely, you're not the same person. Stop letting those past events have a cancerous mentality on you. Cut them, get rid of them, show yourself grace so you can move forward and so you can have some forgiveness of yourself. It is so important to forgive yourself for your past because it is over and you didn't know what you know now.
Yeah. How do you find it's I feel like when I reflect back on some of the things that I have done in the past where I feel maybe guilt or shame, maybe it was my fault, maybe it wasn't my fault. It's difficult to find grace sometimes. There's situations where, you know, maybe I wasn't even a kid. Maybe I was like a late teen, early adult, and it's like,
yeah,
you should have known better. What the hell? Like, what's going on here, man? Like, how come you don't know better?
Mark, I would like for you to please give me a human being's name that you know right now that is perfect. Please, I'm ready. Anytime you're ready. And Mark, the let's say the teenage version of you, Mark, were you perfect then? Are you perfect now? Is there such a thing, Mark, as a perfect human being? Is there? I'm asking a question.
No.
Right. So, because you are not perfect, you are flawed, you are imperfect, you are a shit show in many ways, as am I. That version of you should have known better. How else? First of all, we are human beings who only learn through failure. That is the only way we learn as human beings. We never, ever, ever learn from a victory. That's just not how we're made. So that thing, whatever that thing is, and whoever's listening, everybody has that thing that they're like, well, I should have known better. Shoulda, coulda, woulda, didn't. You didn't know better or you did know better. It still happened. What is the lesson learned from it? And you need to let that go. And that's why give it to God is such a big thing for me. I've said that, as a matter of fact, there was a post that I did this morning because the world was crushing in on me. You got to let things go. And if you don't believe in God or you don't believe in a higher power, then you just need to let it go. Because if you don't, whatever the lesson was that you were supposed to learn will be squished and done and over with, and you'll never learn. And you are susceptible to make the same mistakes again if you're not willing to learn from the mistake of that past event.
Do you feel like there's a distance of time, which is like kind of like an appropriate amount of time for somebody to look at or reflect on things that may have hurt them or impacted them in a negative way? Do you think that there's a healthy amount of time or a suggested amount of time where you can look back and say, okay, where could I learn from this? How can I be better? Like, how can I shift this paradigm I have from negative to positive? Is there like
is there a time? That's a good question. And I think, and the answer is going to be, for me, is always going to be no, because how Mark deals with trauma or how Marcus deals with trauma or Doug or Brenda or Susan or Pete, if we sit there and say, well, a respectable amount of time would be 1 to 3 years and 6.2 miles and blah, 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 blah. Well, what happens when you don't meet that marker? You feel like a failure. So I know grown men who are, unfortunately, they're in their 80s, and it's only at this point in time, and usually death coming close to death, amazing how the revelation you end up having when you're like, oops, okay, I was a complete moron. And I'm just going to go with better late than never. Everyone will grow at the time that they grow because of the fact that there's a lot of moving parts in us as human beings. We are not complex, but we make things complex. We're simple creatures, but we want to try to be deeper than we really are. The man who's an Einstein, Mensa, who knows all these things, thinks they're smarter than the 6-year-old kid who has awe and wonder, and there are no limits to that 6-year-old. Well, who's smarter? By what metric? What kind of way are we viewing intelligence? So my point to all that was, I don't think it's the safest thing to do is to put a metric or a number or a time on healing and education, edification from our mistakes.
I like that. I like the better late than never as well. Again, that's like
never too late.
There's yeah, it's cool to see that when you think about like heroes, like you think of like the young guy who goes out to slay the dragon, protect the village, protect the princess, get the gold, like et cetera, defy all odds. And then you hear stories in history of like you said, like men in their 70s or 80s that are like, enough is enough. It's like kind of like it's really I feel like as well, like especially there's been so many times where I think about missed opportunities in my life and I'm like, man, what am I talking about? Like I still have a life ahead of me. I feel like it's so easy to get trapped in that, like it's too late.
Well, and that's the lie. That is the lie. That is the biggest lie ever. It's too late, or you can't do it. Right?
Yeah.
I call bullshit. And that's why I'm like, the enemy is a liar. He can kick rocks. See you later. Bye. Don't tell me that. When I'm looking at, I'm going to call her a friend, Pauline Adeliki. Her son is Remy Adeliki, former SEAL, writer, actor, stud. And his mother's 70-something years old. And she is kicking ass fitness-wise. I mean, just slaying it. And her message is the same all the time. It's never too late. And who am I to sit there and say anything is too late? It's too late if you make the choice. That's the problem, is we do have free will and we choose, it's too late for me. I can't do this. I can't. Oh. And I'm not going to tell them any different. I will say, I disagree with you. You cannot force somebody. That's why motivation is such a lie, right? And inspiration, man, it's got to come from within. If you believe that you're a loser, then you're a loser. And I can't tell you you're not. At some point in time, you'll get a revelation. Life will smack you in the face. And you'll be like, you know what? I'm not a loser. And all I can pray is that it's not on your deathbed that you finally figure out that you're not a loser.
When I feel like there's been so many times, and I feel like that's what everyone tells themselves. There's kind of like the group of people, and I've been a part of this group before in my life, where you just think like, why would it be me? Like why would it be me? I'm just the average person. I'm just, I came from so and so place and so and so, and I was told to sit down and shut up, and I was never really good at this or that or whatever it is. I used to tell myself even like I was just like an average kid, like I was never really that great at hockey or rugby or any of the sports I played. Yeah. And it's so easy to fall into that trap of just like, why would it be me? Why would I think that I could be good at this?
Yeah. Yeah. And I was, as you were saying, I was going to go bring a whole bunch of stuff from my past. I'm just going to leave this. If not you, who? And if not now, when? Because enemy is a liar, man. I'm going to say this for sure. Here's a litmus. Is it litmus test? I don't know. Whatever the test is for you.
You're smarter than me.
I don't know, but I think I screwed that up. But This is the test I want you or your friends or anybody else, whoever you're around, whatever you want to be. Let's say you want to be, I don't know, you want to go scuba diving. You want to get your scuba diving ticket. You're like, I want to go scuba diving. If the answer from everyone you're around is not, yeah, man, do it. What do you got to do? Man, yeah, do it. If it's not that, and it's anything other than that, cut them. Cut them. Because there's nothing that is impossible. Now, I understand. I'm waiting for the haters to be like, Marcus, you're 54 years old. Could you really go into NASA and be an astronaut? I don't know. But why should I not give it a shot? What if I sit there, just hypothetically, what if I go and I do all the things and I find out I can't do it? Think about the adventure of my life and all the things that I've now have knowledge of, how close and close is a relative term. My life in that trajectory versus my life in the trajectory of listening to everybody say, shut up. No, you couldn't do it. What a shame that we would allow external things to add to the internal doubt that's already there. They can fornicate elsewhere, man. See you later. Bye. I need hype people. I need people to be like, Marcus, where's that book? And, I've got 2 books that have been sitting in my head. And I've had people that have been like, do it. Do it. Why haven't you done it yet? Now, the internal doubt and all the stuff that's inside, that's on me. I have to own that. But I look at the people around me, and if they're not hyping you up and being like, yeah, man, get to it, cut them. And I don't care if that's family, cut them. Because the enemy is talking through them, and they need to kick rocks too. See you later. Bye.
I love that.
And don't be letting anybody use your past of, brainy idea 9002. How many businesses are you going to fail at before you sit there and give it up? I don't care if you started 19 businesses and 18 different college courses and I don't care about any of that. Keep doing it. Keep doing it. Keep doing it. You'll find your shtick, and then it'll be the thing. But don't you dare listen to anybody who sits there and tells you shouldn't, couldn't, or wouldn't.
100%.
Sorry, I repeated on that one.
No, I love that, man. I absolutely love that. I'm feeling the energy, and I'm getting charged by it. I love it because that's every time I don't know, maybe it was because I worked in sales in the past, but I used to tell myself like that I had to break through a certain amount of no's before I'd get a yes. So I used to but when I'd hit my phones in the morning and I'd think to myself like, man, I don't want to do this. Everyone's just going to yell no. You get that internal dialogue. And then I would tell myself, like, it's just, I have to break through as many amount of no's as I possibly can until I have to get to a yes.
I need 400 no's and then I'll get my yes. How many no's have I gotten? I'm only at 200, man. I got 200 more no's till I get a yes.
That's what I think, because
that's a good way of looking at it, bro. For real.
Dude, I've been through like, and I'm still going through to this day, like what you're talking about of like, started this business and it failed. Now I have X amount of debt. Well, time to recover from that. I'll get a little job. I'll do this. I'll do that. And starting the next business, starting the next opportunity, and trying to stay afloat. And it's like every time I look back at those things, I used to tell myself like, remember when you made this stupid decision or this bad investment or this or that? And I think, well, like, hey, I'm one step closer to hitting gold. I'll just keep hitting this vein.
Yep. There's a great image, and it usually pops up at least 3 or 4 times a month for me. And you got a standard frame. One guy, they got pickaxes, right? And they're picking and picking and picking and picking. And, they're both picking at the same time. And they've got, one guy's got about an inch left before the diamonds go. And then the guy on the bottom's got the same inch left. And one guy just stops before that inch, and the other guy doesn't stop and then gets the diamonds. And you never know I know it's cliche, but it's such a fact. You never know how much closer you were. And the minute you quit, chances are there's a there's a strong chance that just before you said stop, no, whatever, that the victory was right there. And, I'm curious, when I die, I hope I probably won't even care. None of us will care. But when you get back and they do a little review and they're like, by the way, right there was just where that one had some victory. However, because of the fact that you stopped, we went over here and God was able to sit there and turn your victory over here. It was a victory. Whether it was big or small is irrelevant. But every time we give up, I'm glad that you sat there and have not been like, failed again. Failure is the only way we learn. And you're quitting as much as that's, frowned upon. You were quitting for whatever that reason was, but that knowledge gave you the IQ, the emotional IQ, the spiritual IQ, the physical IQ to go down a different route that you will be even more impactful because of the fact that you gave up that other thing. And you would never be who you are today if you hadn't quit that one thing. They say quitters, nobody should quit. Well, sometimes quitting is the building block to get you to the win.
Yeah, 100%. I agree with that 100%. When are you I don't know if you're actually like I believe you're actually going to do this. That's why I ask, what would you write your book about? Do you have any topics? Do you have any stories that you'd be able to share?
Well, one is a kid's book. One is a kid book about bullying. And the second book is going to be just about, yours truly, and to writing to get to this point. If you go into Barnes and Noble, or I guess Chapters, right? You go into Chapters, and I haven't said that name in forever.
Indigo, Chapters.
Indigo, yeah. Is it Indigo now? Chapters is gone?
I think it's the same company. Right. I'm not sure.
Right. Okay. Well, if you go into Indigo and you go into the self-help section, there are thousands of books. And if you go into biographies, there's thousands of books. My point to this, what I'm going to say is, up to this point in my life and everything that's happened to it, I need to let it come out and put it on paper so that I can know that I've exhausted up to this point. Here's my past. Here's what got me to this point of who I am right now. Now, whether I write it, publish it, and even if no one buys it, it's not the point. The point is that I'm going to put it out there, if nothing else, so that I can say to myself and anybody else, I'm not afraid to put my past, my current present out there for the world to see. And, a book can be anything, right? You can write nonfiction, fiction. It can be humor. It can be whatever. Everybody has a book or a movie or a something inside of them. And we're supposed to tell our story in whatever platform that is. You have a podcast, and it's great. And you get to sit there and impact people's lives. Whatever it is, just do it. But don't do it with the motivation of being Joe Rogan or $1 million or whatever. Like that's ridiculous. Put it out there and get the lesson from it. And so I'm going to go to Tampa in October, and the person that's going to help me write the book will be able to have a week of finding a structured way to go about getting that information, because I do know where my weaknesses are, and writing is I'm okay at it, because thankfully God put me in a position where I had to write articles for a magazine as a way of making income. So I got to get rid of all the lies that the devil told me about, you're useless at writing. But structuring a book and all the things that go with it, people who are bigger, better, smarter than me at it, I give it to them, and the Lord will work together with me and this person, and no matter what, the books will be done, just so that I can sit there and say, Okay, I did them.
I love that. Yeah. I think I love what you said about, it's not to strive to be the millionaire or the overnight success or anything like that. Like I think about that all the time when I think about the purpose of my podcast. It's cool because I think that anything artistic, whether you make music or you write poetry or you write a book or you have a podcast or you have, not to call myself an artist, I'm not an artist, but I think there's this, there's kind of two sides of benefits. There's like it benefits me because I get to have these conversations. I get to speak about my stuff. I get to talk about my stuff. I get to hear different perspectives and hear life stories, and it uplifts me. I'm an extrovert, so I thrive. Like my energy rises as I have conversations with other people. So it gives me better momentum in my day if I started in the morning. There's all these benefits, but then there's also the extra benefit of like, yeah, I'm just going to share this and people can listen to it. And if they relate to it and they get a positive message from it and it helps them start their week off, like that's the best feel. Like that feeling feels better when someone messages me and they're like, hey, I like this episode. Like that feels better than anything else that comes from this podcast, whether it's like the uplifting message I get from you when I talk to you, or a new perspective when I hear a tragic story, or any like benefit that I get from this podcast. The biggest one is when someone messages me. I wake up and I check my phone after a couple hours and I see like, hey, I really like this episode. It reminded me of this thing that happened in my life. And I'm like, that's crazy. I never thought like that person would be listening, like,
Right. Yeah. Yeah. No, that is dope. And I don't want to, you just said, I'm not an artist. And it's funny how we have responses in our tone or in our thoughts, and they're fail safes, like blah, blah, blah artist. Well, I'm not an artist. As I don't want to portray myself something I'm not. So if a child came by and we were together, you and I hanging out, and a child drew some stick figures and and some big heads and three eyes and whatever, and was like, hey, look at this. Would you tell them that they're not an artist?
no,
Would you say that to the kid?
no, I wouldn't.
Okay. So when anybody, and we all have God-given creativity in us, every single one of us, every human has some type of creative outlet, and it manifests in different ways. When somebody sits there and immediately announces, well, I'm not an artist, when they're clearly creative in their nature, in their sides, I am going to say the devil is a liar and he can go F off. I denounce that nonsense coming out of you, because you are a creative artist. You can see, listen, you can't say you're not. Well, you can, you just did. However, I'm not going to acknowledge that. And so I just took up another 30 seconds to sit there and say that. So moving on, I disagree with you. Devil is a liar. Moving on. Go ahead.
I love that, man. It's funny though, when you talked earlier, that one of the first things you talked about was finding your constant. And thinking back in my life, it's interesting. I think, well, it's not interesting. It seems completely rational and normal. My entire life, like I would be getting in trouble for talking in class. Like you couldn't get me to shut up. There was points where like my teacher would be like, all right, you're not sitting next to your buddy. You're sitting next to this random person that doesn't speak English yet. And I'd be like sitting there trying to get them to have a conversation with me. I'm like, come on, bro. I know you can understand. Like, we don't need the words, man. We can still interact. It's all good. Like, I've always thrived off conversation. I've always been an extrovert. So having a podcast, it's like that's literally the easiest transition for me is that, right? So I think it's cool if anyone out there listening to this, or I'm sure that you've done the exact same kind of thought process of just like thinking about what were some of the things that you like you get in trouble for as a kid, especially as young boys, but also like things that just like naturally. I think Jordan Peterson said this, like the things that make you care less about the risk to get the reward.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, like I wouldn't, I would be fine. I like opening my mouth and saying some stuff and trying to get the class clown laugh in
Right.
front of
Right.
everybody. If I knew like the reward was there, I'd be like, I'll
Yeah.
take this dice roll, like whatever. It is what it
Yeah.
is. But
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
there's other things where I'm like, I'm not speaking up right now. Like I don't want to get
Yeah.
punched in the mouth.
Right. Usually you get punched in the mouth, and that's when you figure out, okay, I got to sit there. And you only learn when not to do something after you've been punched in the mouth.
100%. Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
But it's funny to see to find that constant, of just like, yeah, that's the one thing that I've always found the most entertainment from. Like, I listen to conversations, I love comedians, I love just listening to dialogue, I love it in like engaging in it. And so it's natural that that's a part of my hobbies, my everything I do. I'm pretty social while I do it, while I work, while I train.
Yeah. I think that, and you brought up, if you look, that you said, look in the past and see what you did. And that's where usually people block, because their memories of their past are less than great. So they have a challenge to look back at things. And this is why I do encourage people to just go and do everything, because when you find the one thing, you'll feel secure and safe enough to be able to look back and get confirmation of, well, yeah, of course I enjoy painting buildings, because I was painting since I was 3 and I would get in trouble for it.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And once you find a thing that you feel comfortable and safe in, it feels a lot easier to look back. I would love for people to look back anyways, just so that they can sit there and see all the beauty that they've accomplished to this date. Most people hate who they are now, but they never look back and see that, wow, look how much you've accomplished. If nothing else, your one constant is that you survived 100% of the days that you've been alive. And I know that's a t-shirt, and I know that's a saying, but everyone needs a reminder, a personal reminder, that that's how strong you are. Most people have no idea how strong they are, because they're lied to by their people, persons, and things, who sit there and tell them how useless and how weak they are. Take a look at how much you've survived. You'd be, if we put it in a metric, you'd be amazed at the metric of, holy shit, I can't believe I'm that strong.
Mm-hmm. I love that.
Yeah.
But if you don't mind me asking, what makes you what inclines you to write a book about bullying for children?
Well, because I got my ass kicked. Why do you think somebody takes martial arts in the first place?
Yeah.
I started when I was 10, because I was getting my ass kicked. Not that teaching kung fu at 10 years old or 11 or 12 years old did anything. I just got my ass kicked better. But that's the main reason. And ironically, I'm not going to give away too much of it, but ironically, the book that I'm doing, it's a kid's book, and the ending is not going to be what people think. It's, because if you've ever been bullied, you know that bullying doesn't stop. It never stops. It goes through us through our whole life. And the only reason that we're able to navigate and surf through this thing called life is how we deal with bullies. And they manifest in a bunch of different forms. Corporate bullying, you've got school bullying, you've got, bullying really is, if we put a label to it and say bullying is nothing more than someone being a jerk to someone else on a regular basis. Well, how many jerks do you run into in a day? I mean, you run into tons of them. How many of them cut you off and give you the finger? And, bullying is how we respond to those jerks. So, some people take martial arts, some people don't fight back, some people are punching people out, knocking people out left, right, and center. But it is important for me because my son has cerebral palsy and because he's got special needs, and my own history with bullying and my experience of seeing how he's been treated. It just feels like a natural outlet to put that out there. And again, it's probably just cathartic for me to put that out there and know that I've done what I've done and I've said what I need to say. And here it is with some cartoons and pictures. And, if only one kid sits there and has an alteration in how they think and just makes them go a few degrees off their current course into a healthier course, then it was worth it.
That's cool, man. I like that. I think I'm pretty sympathetic to the movement of anti-bullying. Do you think that there's like I don't want to say that it's good, and this kind of relates back to what we were saying earlier about like trauma and having it be a blessing.
Right.
There seems to be, and I actually used to ask this question every one of my guests, but I think that you'd be a good person to ask this question to. I haven't done it in a while.
Okay.
I ask this question a lot in regards to addiction. I say like there's, Vancouver, the downtown east side.
Yep.
You go down there and you see people, you hear about success stories. You say, well, how did this person become so driven? How did they become so motivated? How did they become this great person? Yep. And then they're like, oh, their origin story, like their beginnings was really dark. They had an addiction. They lost their family. They lost their house. They lost this. They lost that. They nearly died. Maybe they died and came back, whatever it could be. And because of all these things, they were motivated and driven to become this great person. And then you see person B and you're like, how do they have such a dark present? Like, why are they in this mess?
Right.
And maybe this person's getting by and paying bills and getting groceries, but they're pissed off at everybody. They treat everybody like garbage. They think the world's out to get them. They lash out at themselves and other people. They're just miserable. And then you say, why is this person like that? And you say, well, they kind of act like this. We just tolerate it. We know, like, just kind of pity them and feel bad because their origin story is this dark story of addiction and trauma. And he lost his house, his wife, his kids, whatever. Having like a similar origin story, what separates the person that becomes this like great, motivating, inspiring person and this like dark, like deep, inflicted by evil, like what's the differing factor between those people if we see so many people that come from this darkness and then some arise and then some continue down that path? What's the differentiator in your eyes? I know there's no right answer to this, but
choice. We have free will and we have a choice in everything we do. And when you look at people who have every addiction known to mankind, I mean, if we just make it personal, I've been given every reason to be the biggest screw up on the planet. Everyone. I've got everything. I'm an alcoholic, a recovering alcoholic, everything in my past to right now. There's every reason for me to be dead, or just a miserable SOB who craps on every single person. We have a choice, and our choice a lot of times is who do we surround ourselves with? What do we listen to? What do we watch? Now, there is no defining thing that turns one person one way or one person another way. We have a choice. We're all given the opportunity, all of us from birth, we're all given the opportunity to be the best versions of ourselves. some break down and build back up. Some people break down and never get back up. The truth is most people who have some type of origin story that's built with not even trauma, just rough, right? RUFF, rough background is usually the backbone to give them the strength to withstand how difficult navigating through this world is. Life is tough. It's not supposed to be easy. And a lot of people have had it easy, see how tough it is, and then they crumble and then they never recover. Most people who've had an origin story, as you said it, that's not so great, generally grow into good people who help others. And again, we're making bold or blanket statements on a subject that has to do with trillions of people. But at the end of the day, for me, it comes down to choice. And that choice takes time to come to the revelation of, I'm going to be this way, I'm going to be that way. But it's a choice. No other. You can victimize it. You can say, oh, woe is me. You can do whatever you want, but it's a choice, no matter what.
So how do you, or how have you, because the opposing question of that, I guess, is a good way to phrase it, would be like, like how I don't have a choice. There's the people that think that they don't have a choice. How would you kind of show someone, convince someone, or I guess a better question is, how did you start to convince yourself that you had a choice? Because you've expressed like some pretty some events that obviously a lot of people would be almost like too scared to talk about, or they see a lot of darkness surrounding it. So I first of all commend you for even talking about those things. It's huge, man.
Right.
But how did you convince yourself that you had a choice to move forward or to heal from this?
I don't really know if I have an answer for that. How I did it. I don't have an answer for that because I really don't know. Now I look back and I say, well, God was with me the whole time. I have no idea because statistically, all the things that have happened, I should not be where I am now. So it's by the grace of God, and that's my thought. To those who are saying, I don't have a choice, this is my life, this is my lot, this is what I've been predestined to do. I've maybe it's just the grumpy old man in me, get off my lawn. But I don't argue with people about it. I'm useless, I'm a piece of shit. Okay. I disagree with you. We can agree to disagree. If you want to be a piece of shit, you want to be that guy, and you want to be that girl, and you're choosing to do it, fine. But don't tell me you don't have a choice. Oh, it's too hard. Addiction is too hard. Yeah, it is. It is. It is too hard. So, but don't tell me you don't have a choice. I can't quit. I can't quit heroin. I can't quit fentanyl. I can't quit crack. I can't quit drinking. I can't. Okay, you can. You're choosing not to because it's too hard. And that's the enemy, man. The enemy, we want things so easy. There is no easy. There's nothing easy about from the minute you come out of your mother, there's nothing easy about this life. And the lie that we tell people of, oh, no. Yeah, take this 6 weeks to a better body and take this pill and get this in 2 days and easy. It's not, man, there's nothing easy about it. Our history of mankind shows that it's not easy. So make a decision that you're not going to be this person that you are right now. Excuse me. Whoever you are that's destructive and negative and feel like shit and you're useless piece of all that lies, make a choice to not be that person. And the same as I tell anybody who's recovering anything, it's one day at a time. Well, hold on. It's 1 day, 1 hour, 1 minute, 1 second, 1 breath. There are days where you literally, I'm not going to drink, do drugs, look at porn, whatever you're gamble on, whatever the thing is that the enemy's got their hooks in on you, take a breath and make a choice. Everybody has to have they say their bottom out moment. Well, it's sometimes not bottoming out. Sometimes you just look in the mirror and you're like, you know what? I don't want to be this person anymore. But who we surround ourselves with is a major part in why we feel the way we do and think the way we do. And that's family, that's friends, that's internet, that's news, that's whatever. Whatever you're taking in is usually a contributing factor to how we feel inside.
100%. I 100% align with that. It's so easy to think like, and I remember even saying this out loud to myself and other people. Like, I've always been depressed. I've always been anxious. I've always been suicidal. So I always will be. That's how it's always been. Maybe like there's certain things that just like, oh, this runs in my family. This impacted my parents, and this impacted my mother.
All lies.
And I 100% agree with you. It's like you even speaking those things and thinking about the world in that way, like that's the only thing keeping you there. Like that's what I had to tell myself is like, I remember journaling, I've always been this way. And I was like, cross that out instantly. And I was like, fuck that. I'm not going to be like that anymore. Like there's no way I'm attaching that to my identity.
No. And anytime we use extremes on always, never, any of these verbiage, that alone it's a big sign right there. I'm always going to be, or I always am, or nope. And again, it's how we speak is how we think most of the time. So what we say out, we have what I look in affects me inside. What I say not only affects the people around me, but it also affects me. So I need to speak this truth, which is not the lie of always, but I have the ability. Simon Sinek. I always screw up his last name.
No, I think that's right.
I love that guy. And he has something that he says that he adds to when his friends are like, I suck at this, or I'm no good at that, or I'm useless at this. He always puts yet, like I can't do this course yet, or I'm useless for now. And you add on because it gives the negative doubt. And it is the single best advice I have ever listened to, and that I constantly, especially with people who just want to be negative on the regular, like, boo, 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 I can't. For the first 5 minutes of doing it, I'll throw that yet for now, find that positive, throw it on there, and then I just leave it. Because misery loves company. So when somebody's negative, they're trying to get you to come in. At some point in time, you're like, yeah, bing, bang, boom, nope, and you can go fornicate elsewhere. I'm out of here. I'm not cutting them loose. I'm just leaving them at arm's length, because you know what? You need to swim in your little pool until you get smacked by life okay, now you have a choice. Do I continue swimming in the pool, or do I get up, put on my trunks, because I'm swimming in negativity, and go into that other pool, and it's going to be a little deep, but I got my little floaties on there, and they'll keep me from drowning, and I'll still take in some water, but that's going to be the positivity pool that I decide to swim in. That's
awesome. I love that, man. Do you think martial arts helped to teach you that mindset?
It's a good question. I don't know, because martial arts didn't give me any confidence. I mean, I have a huge amount of negativities that surround martial arts. One of my martial arts instructors molested me. So, however, the one constant that with martial arts is it always brought me happiness. It was something that I could do, because I was absolutely useful as tits on a bull when it came to football, rugby, hockey. I was useless, boy. I'm telling you. Like, how you play street hockey, right? Car, man, I'd have guys who be like, look, we're picking teams. We'll give you 3 points and let Marcus go on your team. Like, I'd be the guy scoring his own goal, man. Oh, my goodness, useless. Oh. But martial arts was always the thing that I could do, and I just had a gift for it. God gave me a gift to be able to do these things, which is not, it's conjunction with the fact that it made me happy. And even with all the negative stuff that happened in martial arts, there's just been way more good. So I don't know if it necessarily helped me become more of anything, more or less, but it was my one constant that God was there at all times to be like, look, Marcus, even with all this other stuff going on, martial arts is going to be the one little bubble where you're going to be okay. And as a result of that, it's going to go into this and go into this. And before you know it, you're teaching a whole bunch of people. And I'm going to utilize all this stuff to get you to where you are right now. So it's kind of cool.
Yeah. It's one of those things. Like I just started jujitsu, I'd say, I think 2.5 years ago, 2-ish years ago.
Very cool.
And man, I grew up playing sports my whole life. Like I grew up playing hockey and rugby were my two main sports. Mm-hmm. And there's never been, I got into bodybuilding after that. I did a competition. There was like tons of different avenues of fitness that I pursued in my life. Mm-hmm. And jujitsu, like it's been the first one where there's so many things that I look at where I'm like, I could never do that. I could never do that. And then someone's just like, just try moving your body in this way and see what happens. And then I look back and I'm like, man, I'm able to do things now that I literally didn't think were possible for my body because I said I couldn't do that.
Yeah. That's
Even though you see another human being doing it, it's possible to do. You see someone else do it and you're like, yeah, okay, that's cool, but I can't do that. Like it's like
you don't enemy's a liar, man. I'm telling you.
And it's so crazy to think too. It's like we're all born the same. Obviously like people have different gifts and abilities and skills, but it's like, why do you think that person can do it? Oh, because they've been here for 15 years.
Yep. They made a commitment. They've made a commitment to something, and look at bodybuilding is a great example. As somebody like you, I did some competitive bodybuilding. You can't tell me that everybody can't go on stage. Can people go on stage and win or not? That's subjective, but everybody can go and do the things necessary to go from where they are now, 16, 18, 20 weeks, 24 weeks. Some people will be a year, some people 2 years, and they can get on stage. Everybody can do it. It's a choice whether you're willing to put in the work or not. And that's, at the end of the day, that's just how we are as creatures. Find the thing that you're most willing to do the work and suffer in. And by suffering, enjoy the process of doing it. And that's your thing for now at this point in time in your life. Nobody says that you have to be jiu-jitsu person or like, I hate boxes. I do hate, and I mean hate boxes. Don't put me in a box because I've the time in my life, I've been in a whole bunch of different things and done a whole bunch of different things and enjoyed all of those different things to make me who I am at this current point. And in 20 years, God willing, I'd be 74. I'm going to be doing something else, or I'll be doing the same thing, just way better. Just
in a different way. Yeah.
I can't do this anyways. Yeah. We're not doing that. Nope. There's no can't. I don't want to hear it. It's ridiculous.
I love that, man. I love that. I think that just to your point of being put in a box, I think that all of us are I'd say convinced to accept the boxes that we're put in. And I think it's just a diversion to
it's a lie.
Create separation between us.
Yep. I've got separation, segregation, division, all that. Go do something, because the truth, and here's the truth, we all bleed, crap, and cry the same. There ain't nothing different about us. We're all the exact same. We're put on this earth to be we're human beings, human species, different races, different colors, different creeds, different religions, different foods, that's what makes being a human being awesome. And if you're going to tell me that I can only do A, B, and C, I call bullshit. You can go fornicate yourself. I am not going to believe it whatsoever. And I'll be like a 5-year-old. I'll put my fingers on my ear. La, 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 not listening. I don't want to hear your nonsense. Don't bring me with that nonsense. Go away. And I wish more of the world would sit there and take that same philosophy. We'd have a completely different planet.
I think And you like you kind of said that you didn't want to talk about too many like like maybe I misunderstood you, but you were kind of thinking that you didn't want to talk about too many like polarizing topics because this is a Canadian broadcast, and due to some bills that have just recently passed, I don't know how much of my content's going to continue on, but
Yeah.
I I've been somewhat vocal, I'd say. I'm vocal about 50% of the time when I see things that anger me or frustrate me in this world. I'm pretty vocal about it on Instagram. I've been kind of blocked a little bit here and there. So I try and pick my battles.
Yep.
I know that like not every one of my opinions needs to be heard, but when I think that something's worth it, I'll be
Yeah.
like, all right, I'll put my neck out and say this,
Yeah.
even though it's really not a huge risk that you're taking just by opening up your mouth. But yeah, on my podcast, on my Instagram, I've been pretty vocal about a lot of issues that I found in the last few years.
Yep.
And I do have hope. And this kind of pigtails off of what you were just talking about is that I do have hope. And I do think that the pendulum will swing. I don't think as many people are as pessimistic as we're taught to believe. I think that the division and the way that we segregate different people in society, and we pin different people against each other based off of race and creed and religion and everything like that. I almost don't believe it's as common as we're
It's not.
told that it is.
No, it's not. Just watch anytime a tragedy happens. You watch anytime a tragedy happens anywhere in the world, and you will see men and women going and working together, regardless of whether they're boy, girl, black, white, green, blue, yellow, red, whatever. At the end of the day, as human beings, we are by our nature willing to help other people when push comes to shove. The problem is most people are a little gun shy, but there will be change. There will be faith, hope, belief. There's more good in the world than there is ugly, and the ugly just gets all the attention. So be it. I don't have any time for it. I'm going to sit there and speak my words, speak my truth, speak what I believe. And those that like it, good. Those that don't like it, good. I don't care one way or the other, because I have to be okay with God. As long as I'm good with God, I'm good with anything else.
That's beautiful, man. I love that. We are coming up on an hour and a half here. So out of respect for your time, I'll let you go. But I really do. I love this conversation, man. I could have this for hours. I just kind of realized I was like lost track of time there a little bit. But I appreciate you, man. I love your message. I love your energy. I know that it's funny because if I do some exercise and I meditate and I journal before I go on a podcast, I've been called out for this before, where my buddy's like, "You seem so relaxed today," but that's the case today. I'm kind of chilled out. I'm not as energetic as I normally am, but I love that your energy carried us through this conversation, brother. I appreciate you a lot. I
Uh,
before I let you go, I want to just give you the opportunity to I know we did a little bit of an introduction, but I want to give you an opportunity to share like a positive message, a reminder for someone, a reference, I don't know, a book suggestion, a quote that you like. I don't know what you want to share. Something
yeah.
that'll just kind of lift somebody up or inspire them a bit.
Well, I will just say this, that no matter how dark your current life is, no matter current your day is, if you'll give the opportunity for just a little light to come in, that blackness will become gray, and that gray will become white, and the light will come through. I just pray that you'll just open up your heart a little bit, just a little bit. I'm not asking for, massive Grand Canyon cracks, just a little bit. Allow a little bit of light to come in. Allow a little bit of people to love on you, so that you can see that two things. One, you're not alone, even though it feels that way. And two, that you have a light inside of you that can also help someone else. And the last thing I'm going to say is, please don't make a permanent solution on a temporary problem, even though that temporary problem feels like it's permanent. Stay alive. Stay here with us. Everything's going to be all right, even if it doesn't feel that way.
That's absolutely beautiful, man. Dude, thank you so much for your time, and thank you for your wisdom. Thank you for sharing the things you shared today. And thank you for being you, man. I really do think that you're spreading a good message, and you're helping a lot of people. So I just want to say thank you very much. Tell people where they could find you. Tell people what they could look out for in the future, anything like that.
Well, Instagram, Facebook, all under my name, Marcus Torgerson. I have a website, www.marcustorgerson.com. I'm trying to keep everything, I tried for just Marcus, but somebody had already taken it. So, because that last name is pretty freaking long. And as for things coming out in the future, there's a bunch of balls that I'm juggling. So there will be some stuff coming in that from seeds that have been planted upwards of 3 years ago. So there will be some upcoming things. And while I have this second, I just want to say, hey, Mark, what you're doing is it, man. Just, you are being a light. You're giving people an opportunity to speak. You're giving people an opportunity to see that there is hope. And just keep doing what you're doing, because what you're doing is good. Okay.
Thank you, man. I really appreciate that. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, brother.
All right.
Thank you very much. Bless your soul. I appreciate you a lot. Thank you for your time. Thank you, everybody else. Much love and peace out.